So I'm going to talk about designing sleep, which is a tricky topic, and a wonderful introduction to the topic we just had. So, where I come from, I used to have a title. I used to be called the creative director. Then we decided just to not have titles in the company anymore. And now I am a coach, strategic designer, hands-on graphic designer if needed to be, depending on the case and client I work with. My background is found the thing called internet roughly 20 years ago. Went to media industry, music industry. They kind of like went belly up. I had nothing to do with that. I stayed. Then I spent 2 years at Nokia Design, which there's a couple of ex-colleagues here at the back. Hello. Which was kind of like 2-year university of doing the things that I still keep on doing. So the company we have is called Nordkapp, and we are an advanced design studio. And so we like to solve hard problems, usually services which deal with problems that are not necessarily sexy right away, but they will have a really big impact in the long run. And, we are about 20 people. We have bases here in Amsterdam, headquarters in Helsinki. And we work all over the world basically. So for the past couple of years our work has been taken us to US, Africa, India, and a couple of other places as well. And we do foresight, strategy and design. So what we try to do is we combine the strategy foresight and kind of figure out the futures the companies need and the people want, and then combine that with business design, strategy, and the actual product and service design in the end as well. We work with both with hardware and obviously digital software as well, and have some evidence that we sometimes manage to do the right thing as well. A lot of the things we do unfortunately are very confidential. But we might or might not be working on things like mobility, robotics, consumer electronics, solar energy, all that kind of stuff. So it's like. And we are working on a futures toolkit as well, called Actionable Futures Toolkit. And it should be out any day now. If you're interested, there's a couple of stickers and tables, and there's a web address, futures.nordkapp.fi, where you can sign up. And we are fully GDPR compliant. And last piece of advertisement, there's a conference called Primer Europe in Helsinki, 10th of September. So we are all about speculative design, design fiction, alternate futures, critical design, that kind of stuff. And the tickets should be sale before mid-month, mid-June as well. Let's talk about sleep. So, we've had the fortune of being part of helping a couple of companies design products related to sleep, and kind of like 2 products that are kind of, they are not even solving the same problem, but they rotate around the same topic of sleep. So one is Beddit. It's a sensor that you put on your bed. It's a capacitive sensor that measures your breathing, measures heart rate, movement, all that kind of stuff. So there's a science called ballistocardiography based around that. So, and then basically you put it in your bed, you forget about it. Then there's Oura, Finnish startup / growth company. So they do this magical ring that measures your body temperature, heart rate, skin conductivity, all that kind of stuff. And they can tell pretty amazing things about, for example, from your heart rate variability, etc. And that is the new ring on display. This one's the old one. I like it because it's kind of like a statement. And you can open beer bottle with that. Don't tell them I said that. But the new one's it's actually started shipping this month. So there's still time to go and order yourself one from ouraring.com. And they both have apps as well. this kind of like, I'm going to talk a bit about this in a minute. And way Beddit works, like I said, you basically just like install it in your bed and forget about it. Right. And just so we get this out of the way, Beddit was acquired by Apple nearly exactly a year ago. So anything that I know about the product, about the design, kind of ends in May 10th, 2017. So they are now a Apple product, so they're the second consumer product and consumer product company ever bought by Apple. And the first one was Beddit. So they have a thing for letter B on it. But you can still buy the Beddit sensor from Apple Store as well. So that's a good thing. And Oura is a ring. And they've approached the connected product from the point of like kind of fashion accessory. So you get this, like you see there, the new ring is actually it's getting quite small. It's a full-blown computer that stays on for 8 days approximately. Waterproof, you can swim with that, do anything you like. And as per fashion, it comes in. Where's my slide? Hello. That's weird. Maybe we'll wait and slide changes. I think it's a new slide here, but anyway, it comes in different covers and different metals. And we'll change. Let's do this. Let me reconnect.
Connection to Apple TV probably.
I think it's due to the internet. It's I don't have any connectivity here.
Oh well.
No, it's not.
Do we have a cable somewhere? I'm looking the old Mac on.
Cool. Well.
So, like I said, the ring comes a couple of different metals and stone as well. And they've managed to miniaturize everything really impressively. And it's basically, it's really impressive when you see the ring. And it's nearly like, just like an actual ring. But so, let's talk about sleep. Right? I mean, sleep is really, really hard. Right? So, sleep is something that's kind of unconscious. We can go to sleep, but we don't do sleep. And you can't, I mean, we can track sleep, but kind of improving your sleep is just something completely different than the usual IoT quantified self products do. And then, on top of that, doing hardware is pretty hard. So, can anyone say what's the common factor in all these products? They're dead. They're gone. They're bankrupt. Because they were just like gadgets that had no data platform, they had no traction, right? So they were nice pieces of plastic that sold probably hundreds of thousands of copies and ended up on landfill. But all they did, they tell you like how many steps you took in a day and possibly how many calories you might have consumed. Which is like, that's nonsense. And kind of my pet peeve as well, the elephant in the room. So we really don't need another app with no purpose. Right. So just the act of downloading something is a huge barrier to use of a product, especially something that's related to sleep and sleep. And I mean, the app metrics, whatnot, you have not these days. So if you open the app many times a day, then it's a good app. So it's sort of like kind of this addictive metrics that kind of tweak our behavior in the wrong way. And especially when we talk about designing for sleep, they just don't work. And it's kind of like we are guilty of this one as well. So every single gadget has a goddamn score, right? So I've been wanting to do a piece of design fixture for a long time where there's a connected whole with everything has a score. And of course the scores are completely different because the platforms and the products, they don't talk to each other at all. They might have unified score in your mobile, but that's yet another side of it. So when we design these things, it's a constant balance of doing something that's kind of approachable and understandable enough, and then trying to kind of take it further enough for the design, for your app, for your product, in order to have meaning for people. And I mean, you probably are familiar with Mark Weiss's invisible computing. Right, so we are now on the verge of that stage, where the computers start disappearing in our mind. And that's like, I'm not going to go into the ethics of that, because there's huge ethical problems of computing data disappearing from our environment. But when we do these things, we have to do things that actually have a purpose in people's life. So they feel they do something sensible. Well, I was joking with colleagues when I did this presentation that I was like, yeah, how do you design for sleep? Just do a circle, pick a color, and make it nice, with a black color. And it's not that simple, but there are patterns which are easy to understand. There are patterns which are kind of like approachable and easy to use. So the left one's Oura. It's basically a clock that tells you how well you slept. And that's the first version of that, which we probably will start developing when we actually get the actual user feedback for that. The second one is the Beddit sleep score. So that's the Beddit Apple Watch extension / app which we did in 2015. And the watch was actually something we started with in Beddit. So Beddit had been around for nearly 10 years, well, 8 to 10 years then. And it's based on pretty heavy research on Helsinki University and Aalto University. So they had to sort of like score, kind of round score the meter that went from 0 to 120. It was like, why does it do that, look? It just does, we don't know. So when we started designing the Apple Watch, so kind of constraints are really useful for design, right? So if you start from the kind of most minimal, smallest touch points you have, you force yourself finding the kind of something useful, the key to the thing that you have to design. And using the Apple Watch as a prop kind of helped us to iterate and design actually kind of figure out what's meaningful embedded as a product. Right. So we basically took everything apart. Our way of working in general is that we like to kind of do a lot of iteration, a lot of volume with the people we work with. Because only that way you can facilitate the conversation in a way that everyone gets their ideas out of their heads on something that's like common language. So we did something, 100-something different variations. That's like, what could this be? In retrospect, this is kind of my favorite. The grumpy sleep meter didn't make it, but it's kind of cute still. I have no idea how well this would work in practice, but maybe we are just coming to the stage where we can actually use abstractions like this and people understand it. But first we have to present them something more tangible and meaningful. And we basically even went that far that we kind of like redesigned the whole company, the whole product. Guy Kawasaki talks about mantras, so the ideas and meaning behind the products. So not for the kind of tagline of the brand, but what value do the products actually provide for you as a user, as a consumer, as a human being. So we Beddit this something kind of like this. On retrospect, this is really obvious. Like, of course, everything comes better after a good sleep, right? So when you sleep better, you have more energy, you have more patience, you provide more time with your family and close ones. And for Beddit users as well, sort of majority of them, Beddit is not a medical product, right? So if you have actual problem with your sleep, you probably go to see a doctor who might use a Beddit as a part of the diagnosis and whatnot. But for Beddit customer group, and also, as well as Oura, majority of the users, the sleep is a psychological problem. Right. So basically, Beddit exists to solve sleep. They help people sleep better and solve the whatever problems they have with sleeping by making things visual, making things better. And that's sort of like when we deal with connected products that track your body, track your system, track your vitals, making things visual is super important. We all made a couple of versions as well. Made an animation for the weekly review a while ago. But thing is, like, when you make things visual, you probably won't nail them right away. But you have to go through the pain of actually figuring out what could it be, what definitely doesn't work, and go through this with the team and with the actual users as well. So many startups, so many product teams work with just by the team. They really don't do this at all. And once you nail this, I really like the idea kind of the software is the world and the hardware gives it teeth. Right? So the hardware actually becomes an avatar for the service and the platform behind it. So if we do our job well, these things become a tribal marks. So, yeah, they're already as well. Yeah, nice ring. Then we do this like, ta-ching, the fist bump. But sort of like this, if you look at this from kind of a cost point of view, this reverses the idea completely. And the thing is, behavior change is really hard. So this is what Buckminster Fuller. So 99% of who you are is invisible and touchable. If you look at Freudian psychology, it's like the ratio is somewhat like 90-10, but our behavior is visible, but motivations, everything that drives the behavior is invisible. That's the thing we have to design for. That's what the guys at Oura are trying to do. So actually, because this thing is a really capable tracker of your vitals, even the amount of like your heart rate variability, which is again a really good sign of how are you actually doing. So they try to build kind of long-term plans and long-term learning on kind of the electronics and the products kind of adjusting, calibrating themselves into us and not the other way, which I think is really, really powerful. But then you get to things like this, because the way we feel in the morning is usually a lie. We might feel great, and still we shouldn't do anything. Or many times when I feel groggy, I just woke up at the wrong point of my sleep cycle, basically. Then it's still fine. I can do sports, I can go hard and do whatever I want. And that's kind of what Oura's trying to do as well. And a couple of learnings to wrap up. So when we do things, the culture is the product. So it's really hard to design a good product without a good culture. So kind of a constructive, psychologically safe environment where everyone pushes each other and things move forward. But this is sort of like, this has nothing to do with hardware electronics, but this has everything to do with the product and its success. With Beddit, we managed to sort of build a mutual trust, for example, which enabled them kind of like to actually, we became their design department. And they took the customer, in the end they had like half the people coding iOS, half the people did the customer management on Intercom, and which worked really well. Because then everyone actually got to talk to people using the product, which again is a really strong kind of enabler for empathy. And in a sense, as kind of designers, we have to become part of the furniture in a way. So kind of, the product we design, they have to become part of the people's lives. They shouldn't be special, they should be part of it. As designers, we kind of usually, you still see the kind of hero designers, that, yeah, we made this, I am the designer. Well, good for you, now go to the background. And that's kind of what we try to do as well. We try to make ourselves unneeded, unusable. And we try to make the organizations learn everything they need to do. And in the context of sleep, I mean, that's the environment, right? So the first problem you'll have is finding an empty socket. So that's sort of like, once you find the empty socket that lets people to charge their devices or then you can start figuring out what's the value, what's the purpose they gain from that. And I mean, they shouldn't charge their stuff in the bedroom at all. Maybe they just should have something that they wear or they keep under their blanket and forget about it. And I mean, sleep is a unconscious thing, right? So, like I said, we can time when we go to bed. We can wake ourselves up, but everything else is just like, yeah, we don't really know. You can open the window in your bed if you don't sleep well. But that's pretty much about it. And that's kind of makes it a hard, wicked design problem. There's not going to be a one single solution for that. And it's all about building patterns, building the right kind of behavior. So we all know what is right. Like I said before in the first talk, we know what's right, but we don't know how to keep up the behavior. That's what we should aim for with the things we design. There's a book called Exponential by a guy called James Hewitt and Leif Aki. They have this company called Hinsa Coaching. They coach Formula One drivers, top athletes, big CEOs. And I think they actually do really, really trailblazing work on the field of kind of coaching organization, coaching performance. But coaching performance in a way that's soft. And it's not just based on metrics, but it's based on how do you feel, what are your values, what are your goals. That's what we as designers, builders should include there as well. So we should infect the organizations, our clients. We use the product things we do, they infect, but we shouldn't sort of push them on people. And this is something I added on the last minute when I had the first talk. We are called to be the architects of the future, not its victims. And another quote from brilliant Bob Dylan. That's a good end. Thank you.
Thank you.